Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. I'm sorry about last week that I couldn't upload. I wasn't feeling all that well. So this week I will be giving you chapter 6.1, the first half of chapter 8. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Chapter 8, the start of the tuning exam. Naruto and Hinata was out on a date when they ran into Sasuke and Sakura, which was also on a date, and decided to make it a double date. The group noticed a small box following them. Naruto whispered, "Does he really think we don't notice him?" Sasuke and Hinata both smiled and said, "I guess." As Naruto said, "Okay, Konohamaru, you can come out." Then three puffs of smoke in three different colors, and out came three kids with wooden katanas on their backs. Konohamaru said, "Well, boss, you're as good as ever," as the young girl and the other boy struck a pose and said, "I'm Moegi, cutest young Konoichi in Konoha." And the boy said, "I'm Udon, smartest young shinobi in Konoha." As they all said, and they were Team Konohamaru. "So, boss, will you train us today?" Naruto said, "Sorry, Konohamaru, but I'm a little busy today, but maybe next time." Konohamaru said, "Oh, you're on a date." But he took a thinking pose. Which one? He looked at Sakura and said, "Well, it can't be her. She's totally innocent." Naruto and Sasuke looked at him and said, "You might want to run." Konohamaru said, "Then why would I?" As he looked at Sakura, as he could see his impending death or a lot of pain as he ran. Moegi looked up at Naruto and said, "You need to save him, or..." Naruto said, "I will, but she won't kill him. She might beat him half to death," Sasuke said. Naruto said, "Yeah." Then a loud thump and a scream of pain as they all ran to the noise. Soon as they saw what was happening, and in an instant Naruto made three clones, and two was behind the two strangers with a sword through their throats as the original. Sasuke and the others walked up and said, "You might want to let the boy go." The male shinobi said, "And why would I?" Naruto smiled and said, "So you haven't noticed," as his clone had both him and the Konoichi's throat with a kunai, and said, "Well, if you don't, let's just say your three will be a head shorter." Sasuke said, "Three? I'll only see two." Naruto said, "Use your Sharingan," pointing to the tree. "So put the boy down and tell me, are you here for the exam?" "I see that you are from the sand." They both nod, and the girl said, "Kankuro, put the kid down before you make a brother mad." "Fine, Tamari." Naruto said, "Good choice, because you almost started a war with that, as that kid is the grandson of the third Hokage. And why don't you join us, number one?" Then the other sand shinobi appeared in the swirl of sand, and Tamari and Kankuro saw a slight cut on his neck, and both gasped and said, "Gara, your neck. Somebody actually got past your defenses?" Gara then noticed that he actually had a cut, if only slightly, and said, "You did well, you're strong, and Mother also said that you're strong as well." Naruto said, "Mother, you do know that Shukaku is a guy, right?" Both Tamari and Kankuro were surprised that he knew about Shukaku, and Gara said, "Who are you?" "I am Naruto Uzumaki, the number 9. At hearing this, Gara started to release killer intent. Naruto just laughed and said, "You call that killer intent?" As Naruto let his out, and it washed all over Gara. At that moment, another group showed up. Naruto saw there was a group of clownmen and said, "Well, well, is this a family reunion?" As Sakura and Sasuke just looked confused and said, "What do you mean, Naruto?" Naruto just said how, as Matatabe and Yuki be treating you two, number 2 and 8. Also, I need to tell you three something. Gara and the other two he just spoke to raised an eyebrow. Then they heard, "Well, well, if it isn't some leaf puppies." Then they heard a young female say, "Shut up. For one, this is their village, and we're trying to get past the past. And the three people said, yes, Roshi, since I sensed four people up there with chakras similar to yours, then they see a group and felt the killing intent coming from both Gaara and Naruto, but mostly from Gaara to Naruto. Then, then here, well, I guess this really is a reunion, as they soon hear Naruto. Hinata, it's been a while. Then Hinata said, oh, Fu, it's been a while. Naruto then points to his head and needs to tell you all five something. Then, in a white space, you see 12 individuals. Naruto said, Yo, Yuki, Makatabe, Shikaku, Shomei, and Son Goku. How have you been doing? I got important information to tell you. Well, Fu and Chomei already know this, but for the rest of you, you should know this, that there are a group of X-class missing men called the Akatsuki after all of us who are partners, so be on the lookout for a group wearing black cloaks with red clouds on them, and they always work in a two-man team. But I would like to know your names, and I have something for all of you just in case. The first to speak up was Makatabe. Well, you know me, but my kitten here is Uchito. Uchito said, pleased to meet you. Naruto said, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, well, at least for now. Well, nice to meet you. Naruto said, this is Killer B, and I'm telling you to save you from his horrible rapping. Then Son Goku said, well, a human who knows all our names and actually uses them. Well, this is my partner, Roshi. Roshi said, nice to meet you, but where is your partner? Oh yeah, sorry about that. Then Kurama came in and said, what is it? No. Oh, it's a family reunion. How are you doing, Yuki? Yoku, Makatabe, Chomei, and Shikaku. Yuki then asked, is what Naruto said about the group called the Akatsuki true? She just nodded. Unfortunately, it is, brother. Naruto said, is Kurosachi the family of the Chichikaki, Roshi? Roshi said, why? Naruto then said, would you mind if the two of us talk to her in a silent seal? Roshi said, about what? Naruto then said, well, it has to do with our families and a proposal to help put the past differences of the rock and the leaf, not to mention her family's hatred towards mine. Okay, it's fine, but don't try anything. Roshi looked at Kurosuchi and said, that young boy, Naruto, has asked to talk to us in a silent seal. It is important. Well, to talk to you, but he will allow me to be there to show trust. She just nodded, and they both walked towards Naruto as he did the same and said, silent seal. Kurosuchi said, so, what is this about? Naruto said, well, I want to first ask you, can you get a scroll to the Tsuchikage? As she said yes, I can get 2-1 to my grandpa. Okay, I want to ask him to be an exhibition match so that we can help put the unrest of the leaf in the rock and the differences between our two families, well, mainly his hate towards my father and grandfather. She looked at him confused. Naruto said, well, my father upset him during the war by killing his son. She said, so your father was the one that killed my uncle? He said, yes, sorry. She shook her head. Well, it's not your fault. So you're the son of the Yellow Flash. You're Naruto Namikaze. Naruto said, well, no, my name, at least for now, is Uzumaki. But the Namikaze name was just a cover-up for my father. His actual name was Minato Uchiha. At this, she just gasped and said, don't tell me that his father was. Naruto nodded and said, what he told your grandfather was unforgivable. He then pulled out a scroll and said, this scroll has everything I told you as well as the conditions on the wind, but I need to add a name to my wind conditions. Kuroshuchi said, so what is that you want if you win? He just pointed. He said, you want me? Naruto nodded, but only if you're okay with it. I won't force you. She thought and said, well, you're not bad on the eyes, but you need to prove your strength, so you have to last at least 1 minute for a win. Naruto just nodded, and as for a bonus, I have for him this seal and want for one, and pulled out a vial. What's in here is the other. She took her head. So, what's the seal? He asked, are either of you seal masters? Well, I'm a level 6, she said with confidence. And what level are you? Naruto scratched the back of his head and said, at level 15. Kuroshuchi said, I thought it maxed out at level 10. Naruto smiled and said, well, not for Uzumaki's, we maxed out at level 20. Then he handed the seal to her, and when she looked it over, she gasped and said, it's the age reduction seal. Naruto nodded. Kuroshuchi said, I didn't think they could be made. Naruto said, I invented it because of the unique circumstances. I'll tell you more of it later. It's kind of a clan secret, so. She said, it's fine, but what about the bottle? He then said, concealment seal. I don't want anybody else seeing this. As he dropped some liquid on the ground while channeling his chakra, and out popped a perfect clone of Madara. As both Roshi and Kuroshuchi gasped, then Naruto put a chakra seal on him. As Naruto said, this is a blood clone of Madara, from Madara's own blood, but powered by my chakra. Madara looked at the redhead and said, why am I here? And why do you look like my son Minato? Naruto said, that's because I'm your grandson, and you're here as a gift for her grandfather. Madara said, what is his name? She said, Oniki. So I'm a gift for him. Well, grandchild, by the way, what is your name? He looked at Kuroshuchi and Roshi and said, you can't repeat this yet, but it will be revealed soon, as they both nodded. I am Naruto Senju. Madara, Kuroshuchi, and Roshi gasped at the young man's last name and said, who is your grandmother on your mother's side? Naruto said, Tsunade, the daughter of Hashirama and Mito. Madara just nodded and said, well, I'm proud of you, my son, for both marrying a Senju and having a genetic miracle, and your ruthlessness using your elements, even to use me as a bargaining chip. Naruto said, oh, you have no idea how right you are at that statement, as he activated his Mangekyo and activated his wood, lava, and metal release. Kuroshuchi said, you have 4 KK Genkai? Naruto said, no, I have 6, including my chakra chains and chakra bite. As he said, as he opened the scroll and changed what he needed, then sealed Madara and the seal up. She said, I'll make sure to send this to him today. Naruto said, if you don't mind, can you come with me to talk to Lord Third? She nodded. After he had dropped the seal and gave Roshi, B, and Ichito a kunai, he told them to keep this on them. B looked at it and said, this is. Naruto just nodded and held his finger to his lip. Killer B just nodded. Roshi noticed and realized what this kunai was. Naruto then turned to the Sand siblings and said, don't worry, I've already left my mark on you three. So, if you get into danger from the group or just want to talk, channel chakra through those marks that's on your shoulders. They won't come off unless I release it forward if you die. He then looked at Hinata and said, I need to talk to Lord Third with Kuroshuchi about something. You want to come? Hinata just grabbed his arm and nodded. As they were leaving, Kuroshuchi said, so you already have a girl? But if the scroll you asked for me, how is that? Naruto said, well, I kind of been forced into the COA. And she said, "Oh, so how many do you have?" He said, "Well, the minimum is 6, but the max is 20. I have 6 as of right now, but I am the last of 2 clans, the last main Uchiha branch per se, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were to raise the minimum to 10. Since the council now knows of my heritage." She nodded. Hinata said, "Well, he loves us all the same, and we all love him." 15 minutes later, in the Akage's office, the Risen said, "So you want to have an exhibition match with that old fence dinner Oniki to try to bury the hatchet between not only the villages, but your own families, and if you win, you get his granddaughter. That would help forge a bond between not only your families, but the villages. But I'll have to test you later. I'm sure you will make it to the finals, so I'll test you during the month training break." As Naruto, Hinata, and Kuroshitsu was leaving, Inouchi was coming into the Kage's office as he said, "Oh, how are you doing, Naruto? I was just about to ask for authority if you can call for me to talk to you." Naruto raised an eyebrow. Inoichi said, "Well, do you mind if we have a private conversation from one clan to the future clan head?" Naruto nodded, and they went to a private room. Naruto put up a silent seal. Inoichi said, "Those seals of yours sure are convenient, but I came here to ask you, how do you feel about my daughter?" Naruto said, "I figured that's what this was about." "Well, she is a nice looking young lady." Inoichi said, "Good, good. Well, it seems that my daughter liked her. I've noticed that she has been taking her shinobi life more seriously. When I asked her why, she said it was to impress you because she thought you prefer strong, dedicated females. And I also noticed that she's been fantasizing about you at night and learned the shadow clone to help her in her fantasies." Naruto said, "So she's using shadow clones too." Inoichi just nodded. "Yes, well, not all the way, just to cuddle and make out with. So would you consider her a member for your CRA?" Naruto said, "Well, not only I have to agree, I let my girls have a decision, and the girl in question have their say as well." Inoichi nodded. Naruto then said, "Well, we'll see how she does in the tuning exam. If she is taking them and then decide." Inoichi said, "Thank you. You know she will appreciate this, and I'll tell her what you said." Naruto said, "Oh yeah, tell her not to be such a fangirl." Inoichi said, "I've already told her that most boys, especially shinobis, don't like that." Naruto nodded. 2 hours later, Team 18 has just arrived at the academy as they walked in a room that had a lot of beginning in it. Naruto looked at his team and said, "Did you see it?" They all said, "Yes, Genjutsu. With all your training, this Genjutsu level is nothing." Then Sasuke, Sai, and Sakura walked in as they walked up to Team 18. Sasuke said, "I guess you all noticed." Naruto said, "Of course, but why is your cousin's team acting weak?" Hinata and Hinabi said, "Our guess is it's trying to hide their strength." As they leave, Neji walks up to the group and said, "Well, if it isn't my useless cousin and Hinabi-sama." Naruto just glared at him and said, "You really should watch what you say, since both of them are strong and been helping me with a way to free the branch house, and I finally found a way, but I can't do anything as of yet." He then said, "Wait, what? Have you heard about Lord Hisashi?" Naruto then said, "Who do you think taught me the caged bird seal to test on my shadow clone? He also wants to end the hatred. He wants his brother by his side." Then a shinobi with green spandex and a bowl cut came up to Neji's side and said, "My name is Rock Lee, and I want to challenge both you, Naruto Uzumaki, the heir of the Uzumaki clan, to a taijutsu battle as well as Sasuke and Chiha. Naruto said, not now, but if we meet in the survival test or in the final tournament, then I will give you your match. But why only taijutsu? Lee said, because I only have taijutsu. Naruto said, so you want me to fight at 1/4 of my power because you only have taijutsu. Well, I'll give you that. You want me at a fourth. That is how a ninja fights. But I now know that you would never have happened. Besides, even my taijutsu has genjutsu, senjutsu, goenjutsu implanted into it. So even if I don't use ninjutsu or genjutsu, I still won't be a pure taijutsu. As Teammate 10 walked into the testing room with Team 7 and Team 9, they saw all the other rookie teams. When they did, Ino ran to Naruto and talked to him and gave him a kiss and said, "Hey Naruto, my father told me what you said." Then Naruto said, "Then you know you have to prove yourself and get their approval," pointing to the rest of his team, and as well as my other two's approval. Inside Naruto's head, Kurama said, "I don't mind. It might be fun to play with her, and I have Haku here with me," and she also said it's okay. Naruto looked at Ino. "Well, you got two of their approval," as the other girls nodded, as he squealed and gave him another kiss. As Yujito walked up to him and said, "Hey there, Whiskers. What is this about?" "Not much, kitten, and don't call me Whiskers unless you want a new litter." She smirked and said, "Well, that might be fun." As Fu said, "Well, I wouldn't mind." "Oh, hey Fu," as Naruto walked up to Fu and gave her a kiss and gave her a quick ass grab. Then he smirked and said, "Well, that will be fun," to tap slowly in Fu's ear as Fu's hand was on his lower half and felt his other member and whispered, "Yes, it was fun. Well, at least with your clone. But I can't wait to get the original. It seems you're a bit bigger than your clone." Naruto said, "Well, yeah, I made him a bit normal size to get you used to. The next one will be the real 6 of 18 inches. Who just gasped. Naruto started to scan the room as he saw a young woman with dark red hair. He said, "Interesting," and walked up to her and stuck his hand out for a handshake and said, "Hello there, my name is Naruto Uzumaki." As he whispered this in her ear and noticed bite marks over her body and said, "I just left you a present on your hand. I'm restoring the clan. If you don't like your current village, just come tell me after exams. And if something happens during exams, just channel some chakra into the seal on your hand, and I'll be there in a flash." She nodded and kissed him on the cheek and said, "I do want to leave my village. They only use me for my ability." In his ear, Naruto smiled and gave her a kiss on the cheek and said, "Okay, I'll talk to the Hokage after this. After this one, my red hair should have gave it away. But I also have 2 other plans I'm building as well." He looked at him and said, "Okay." At this, a older man said, "You all must be rookies." Naruto glared at him and said, "So what? If we are, but why do you care?" He said, "Well, I don't really, but the others might. You're all putting a mark on yourself, and by the way, my name's Kabuto, and if you want, I got info on all the shinobis here." Naruto said, "Oh, really? Then can you give me info on Kamari of the Sand and Kabuto of the Leaf?" as he smirked. Kabuto said, "Sure, Kamari of the Sand. She is on the team with her 2 brothers, and she is the oldest of the siblings. And it seems she is the long distance fighter with wind chakra and Kabuto of the Leaf." "Wait, what? Why would I give you info on myself?" As Naruto activated his genjutsu on his eye, then activated his Sharingan and said, "Because you want to. Now, the info of Kabuto of the Leaf." He is a Genin and a top medical ninja with the affiliation as he snapped out of it before he said anything else, but Naruto got all the info he needed to not trust him. Then Kuroshichi said, I would like info on Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto said, well, you have most of my info. She said, well, yeah, but this will prove if the info is legit and up to date. As Kabuto said, well, this is interesting. It seems Naruto has a interesting heritage. His father was Naruto quickly put a silent seal around Kabuto and himself and said, that is a top secret. Double S rank. How do you know? As he pulled out a sword and was about to behead Kabuto as he saw proof in a large man with scars over his face as he dropped the seal. But not until Naruto got a good look into Kabuto's mind and saw that the plan about Orochimaru attacking the village and trying to give Sasuke a curse mark. Naruto said interesting as he walked to his seat. He walked past Sasuke and Sakura and gave them both a kunai with a note on it and said, if anything weird happens, channel chakra through this immediately. I got info from him and it's not good, as they both nodded and went to their seats. As the man said, my name is Ibuki and I'll be the proctor for this part of the exams. And for what this part is a written test. And there are certain rules that will go along with it. There are 10 questions, but the sheet only has 9. I will ask last near the end of the test, and if you're caught cheating, you'll lose 2 points. If you get caught 5 times, you and your team will be disqualified. Alright, now start. As Naruto flipped over his test immediately and realized that this test was not for beginning, there must be a hidden message, meaning he thought and then realized, oh, it's about gathering info, as he had a quick look around and he saw his whole team and also realized and then went into his mindscape and said, yo, Dad, mind helping me this test about gathering info without getting caught? So why not get info from a Hokage? As Minato said, well, as he told Naruto all the answers as he finished in about 4 seconds, as Minato realized he only needed help with one of the questions, and he even beat his time, set a new record, and then wrote in code at the bottom, tell Lord at third about Orochimaru is here. He will try to give Sasuke a first mark and attack the leaf sometime soon. Oh, and Kabuto is the spy. After that, he put his head down and just relaxed until he heard, okay, it is now time for the last question, but before I ask, there are a few more rules. If you decide to answer the question but get it wrong, you will always be a Genin and will never be able to take the Genin exam again. At this, several people started to get up and leave as Naruto just deadpanned and let out a lot of killing intent, as even more left, but there was still a lot of people in there. But Ibuki just smirked and said, well, he's trying to intimidate the others, but it stilled the rest. Well, he's got guts. Ibuki saw that nobody else was leaving and said, well, for all of you that decided to stay, all you need to know is that you passed. And one random person said, what about the last question? Naruto spoke up and said that was the last question. He was seeing if we would abandon our mission in the middle, and the test was really a test to see how good we were at gathering info under pressure. We were right, Ibuki, as he nodded exactly. So did you figure everything out? In Ibuki's mind, wow, he's just like both his mother and father. So much it's scary. Naruto's smarts and Kushina's antics. It will be an interesting one in the future. Cutting Ibuki's thoughts off was a large stone crashing through the window, then transforming into a woman with a sign with writing on it saying proctor of the second part of the chunin exams. the sexy Anko. As Anko said, okay, maggots, you will all be heading to Training Ground 44 for the next part. The exams now, so get your asses out there. After everybody got to Training Ground 44, Anko said, okay, listen up, maggots. I will now explain the rules for the second part of the exams. But that will be all for this week, guys. I'll try to post again next week. So take it easy. This is The Forbidden signing out.